What if I told you there was an NBA player who seemed physically incapable of throwing a normal basketball pass? A player whose every move on the court felt like magic, chaotic, beautiful, unpredictable. That player was Jason Williams, and before he became white chocolate, dazzling NBA crowds with behind-the-back lasers and no-look dimes, he was just a kid from a tiny town in West Virginia with a wild imagination and a basketball in his hands. Jason Williams grew up in Bell, West Virginia, a small town with fewer than 1,100 people. His father, a state trooper, had access to the gym at DuPont High School, where the family even lived in a trailer on campus. That key to the gym became Jason's golden ticket. Alone in that quiet gym, Williams spent endless hours honing his craft, inventing passes that no coach had ever taught and no defender could anticipate. By the time he hit high school, he had already built an electric chemistry with his teammate, none other than future NFL superstar Randy Moss. The duo tore up the court and the field, their connection nearly lifting DuPont to a national championship. In the title game, Jason dropped 26 points and delivered jaw-dropping assists that left the crowd speechless. Still, they came up short, and for Jason, it was just the beginning of a rocky ride. Jason originally committed to play college ball at Providence, but when the coach who recruited him left, Jason bailed too. He landed briefly at Fork Union Military Academy, then finally found someone who believed in his unique talent, Billy Donovan, who had just become the head coach at Marshall. While most saw Jason as too flashy, too wild, Donovan saw genius. But NCAA rules forced Jason to sit out the 1994-95 season. Rather than waste that year, he used it to sharpen his skills. Donovan had him practice with weights on his wrists to improve his ball control and vision. By the time Jason took the court for Marshall, he was ready to light it up. He averaged nearly 18 points and 7 assists during the 1995-96 season, turning heads across the country. That success, however, triggered another shakeup. Coach Donovan was offered a job at the University of Florida, and Jason followed. But once again, trouble wasn't far behind. Williams hated school. He skipped class, showed up late, and clashed with authority. Even as he was dazzling on the court, putting up 17 points, nearly 7 assists, and nearly 3 steals per game, he was fighting battles off of it. Then came the breaking point. Jason was expelled after a second failed drug test. At just 21 years old, his basketball dreams were slipping through his fingers. But fate intervened. Orlando Magic forward Nick Anderson had been sitting courtside at a Florida game and was blown away by what he saw. He made a call. A lifeline was offered. Suddenly, the only path forward was the NBA. When Jason Williams entered the NBA, it wasn't with a quiet whisper. It was with a bang. Despite the uncertainty surrounding his off-court decisions and unpredictable style of play, the Sacramento Kings took a chance on him. With the 7th pick in the 1998 NBA draft, the Kings selected Jason Williams from the University of Florida. Critics were skeptical. Could a player who made circus passes and played with street ball flair really lead an NBA team? Or was he just a flashy gimmick? Rick Adelman, Sacramento's head coach at the time, wasn't concerned. In fact, before Jason's first game, he told his new point guard something that set the tone for his entire rookie season. "If you throw a behind-the-back pass and it goes out of bounds," Adelman said, "don't worry about it. Next time, try it with your left hand." And just like that, white chocolate was unleashed. In his NBA debut, Jason scored 21 points, recorded 3 assists, and racked up 5 steals. Kings fans couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Every game felt like a mixtape, full of wild, no-look passes, crossovers that sent defenders flying, and assists that looked more like magic tricks than basketball plays. He wasn't just playing the game. He was reinventing it in real time. By the midpoint of the season, it was clear Jason wasn't a sideshow. He was the real deal. He ended his rookie year averaging nearly 13 points, 6 assists, and close to 2 steals per game. The Kings made the playoffs for the first time in years, and Williams was at the heart of it all. But there were growing pains. In the 1999 playoffs, Sacramento pushed the veteran Utah Jazz to the brink. Williams delivered highlight after highlight, even hitting clutch threes and dazzling with his signature passes. Yet, Utah's legend John Stockton exposed a key weakness: turnovers. Jason struggled with ball security, averaging 2.6 turnovers per game during that series, costing Sacramento their shot at advancing. Still, the legend of white chocolate grew. Fans couldn't get enough. The NBA's marketing machine kicked in, and Jason's number 55 jersey became one of the top sellers in the league. His style, explosive, unpredictable, joyful, was infectious. Even his teammates like Vlade Divac and Chris Webber eventually adapted to his unorthodox game. Webber, himself no stranger to controversy, became one of Jason's closest allies. They bonded over more than basketball. Both had faced off-court challenges and preferred quiet nights with their families to the nightlife many of their peers chased. Williams' chemistry with Webber and the rest of the team pushed the Kings to the next level. The 1999 to 2000 season brought even more highlights, including the now legendary elbow pass during the rookie versus sophomore All-Star game. That single move, a behind-the-back pass bounced off his own elbow, sent shockwaves through the basketball world. It was the kind of play that instantly turned kids into fans and playground imitators. Legends began to take notice. Larry Bird once said Jason was one of the best passers he had ever seen. Others compared him to Pistol Pete Maravich, a basketball icon known for his creativity and flair. Jason took it all in stride, acknowledging the praise, but reminding everyone he still had a long way to go. He was young, gifted, and hungry for more. But even as the Kings kept climbing, there was an elephant in the room. Turnovers. Jason's style, while exhilarating, wasn't always efficient. The Kings' front office knew that for the team to seriously contend, they'd need more control from their floor general. The next steps in Jason's career would require evolution, not just in skills, but in maturity. Still, in those first few years, Jason Williams gave Sacramento something it hadn't had in a long time: hope, excitement, and a reason to believe. By the early 2000s, the Sacramento Kings had become one of the most entertaining teams in the league, thanks in large part to Jason Williams. But behind the highlights and applause, one thing was clear to management: they had hit a ceiling. As much as the fans loved white chocolate, the Kings needed more consistency, more control, and fewer turnovers if they were going to contend for a championship. And so, in a move that stunned Sacramento, Jason Williams was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies in exchange for Mike Bibby. For many players, such a trade might have felt like a demotion, from a playoff team to a rebuilding franchise. But Jason didn't sulk. In fact, he admitted something few athletes ever do. He said, "The Kings got better when they got rid of me." It was a rare moment of self-awareness, one that marked the beginning of a transformation that would define the next phase of his career. In Memphis, Jason changed his jersey number to 2. But that wasn't the only change. In his early games, he reminded the league that the flair was still there, dropping 38 points and 11 assists in one explosive performance against the Houston Rockets. But as the season wore on, it became obvious: talent alone wouldn't carry this team. The Grizzlies finished with only 23 wins. They were the worst team in the league, and something had to give. Enter Jerry West, NBA legend, general manager, and another West Virginia native. West took over as team president and made a bold decision. He brought in 69-year-old Hubie Brown, a coach who hadn't worked in the NBA for 16 years, to take over the reins. The move raised eyebrows, but Hubie's old-school discipline and passion were exactly what the young team needed. From day one, Coach Brown set the tone. He broke the season into 6-game chunks, each with its own goal: improve defense, reduce turnovers, share the ball. He screamed at players when they messed up, challenged their focus, and above all, held everyone accountable. Jason thrived under this leadership. He didn't just respect the criticism, he craved it. He finally had a coach who wasn't afraid to challenge him. And the results were immediate. Under Hubie, Memphis improved dramatically. Jerry West made key moves, bringing in shooters like James Posey and Mike Miller, and Jason adjusted his game to match. The once freewheeling highlight artist became a disciplined conductor of the offense. He knew when to push the tempo, when to slow it down, and how to get each teammate the ball exactly where they liked it. Mike Miller said it best: "Jason told me, if I bounce pass it, drive. If I chest pass it, shoot." It was a sign of Jason's evolution. He wasn't just making plays, he was reading the game 3 moves ahead. And Memphis responded. For the first time in franchise history, the Grizzlies had a winning record. They won 50 games in the 2003 to 2004 season, with Williams at the helm. Memphis was finally headed to the playoffs. Though the Grizzlies were swept by the defending champion San Antonio Spurs, it didn't feel like a failure. For the first time, Jason Williams wasn't just the flashiest player on the court, he was one of the smartest. He had learned to control his game, reduce his turnovers, and lead like a veteran. The fans in Memphis respected him not just for the excitement he brought, but for the discipline and growth he showed. But success in sports rarely comes without setbacks. At the start of the next season, tragedy struck the Grizzlies' sideline. Coach Hubie Brown, whose fiery leadership had turned the franchise around, was forced to retire due to health issues. The passion he brought to every practice and every game had taken a toll on his body. Memphis turned to Mike Fratello, another veteran coach, but the fit wasn't there. Jason clashed with Fratello almost immediately. "He's a great middle school coach," Jason would later joke. The chemistry was gone. The spark was fading. Memphis still made the playoffs, but they were swept again, this time by the Phoenix Suns. Jason knew the writing was on the wall. His time with the Grizzlies was coming to an end. The question was, what came next? What happened next wasn't just a career move. It was destiny calling. By 2005, Jason Williams had been through almost every twist and turn imaginable in a basketball career. From high school phenom to college dropout, from Sacramento's flashiest star to Memphis' disciplined leader, he had grown, adapted, and survived. But the one thing he hadn't done was win. Not just games or applause, but the ultimate prize, an NBA championship. That opportunity came when a familiar voice called him, Shaquille O'Neal. After being traded from the Lakers to the Miami Heat, Shaq had joined forces with rising superstar Dwayne Wade, but something was missing. They needed a true floor general, someone who could get the ball where it needed to be. Shaq picked up the phone and called Jason. Without hesitation, Williams responded, "Tell Pat Riley he can cut my left nut off if he gets this deal done." And so, in one of the largest trades in NBA history, Jason Williams became a member of the Miami Heat. At first, things didn't go as planned. The team, stacked with talent, was struggling under head coach Stan Van Gundy. The chemistry was off. The egos were clashing. 21 games in, the team was underperforming. So Pat Riley, the mastermind behind multiple championships, did something drastic. He stepped out of the front office and back onto the sideline. One of his first conversations was with Jason. Riley was blunt. Jason's job wasn't to entertain. It was to distribute, control the pace, and keep the team focused. The white chocolate flash was reserved for fast breaks. Everything else had to be sharp, simple, efficient. For many players, that might have felt like a punishment. But for Jason Williams, who had spent years learning restraint and growth, it was the perfect challenge. The Heat found their rhythm. They won 50 games and powered through the Eastern Conference playoffs. Then came the real test, a rematch with the powerhouse Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals. With Miami up 3-2, Detroit had momentum and was ready to force a Game 7. But Jason Williams wasn't going to let that happen. In Game 6, with the pressure at its peak, Jason played arguably the most disciplined, clutch game of his career. He didn't just make a few plays, he scored 10 straight points. Layups, mid-range jumpers, even a pull-up three off the dribble. For a player once criticized for being all flash, it was a defining moment of substance. Miami won by 17 points. They were heading to the NBA Finals. But the job wasn't done yet. The Dallas Mavericks took a commanding 2-0 lead. The Heat were on the brink of collapse. But Pat Riley wasn't panicking. He pulled the team together and told them to circle a date on their calendars, June 20th, 2006. The day they'd win a championship. It sounded insane until it wasn't. Behind Dwayne Wade's historic finals performance and a unified team effort, Miami clawed back. Game by game, the Heat turned the series around. Jason, now 30 years old and a veteran leader, embraced his role as the glue. In Game 6, he handed out 7 critical assists. And when the final buzzer sounded, Jason Williams had done it. He was an NBA champion. His celebration wasn't about the cameras or the crowds, it was personal. The kid from Bell, West Virginia, who couldn't play by the rules, who passed too creatively for coaches to understand, had reached the top of the basketball world. And in a full-circle moment, Pat Riley's wife even reminded Jason of his earlier promise, jokingly asking if she could collect that left nut. But like all highs, it didn't last forever. The next season was chaos. Miami came back complacent. They lost on their ring night by 42 points. Riley tore his meniscus kicking a locker room door out of frustration. Jason missed practices, clashed with management, and the team fell apart. The Heat were swept in the first round by the Chicago Bulls, marking one of the worst title defenses in NBA history. Jason's body was breaking down. His knees hurt. His minutes dropped. No teams were interested until the Clippers signed him for the veteran minimum. But the cost of living in LA was so high, Jason later admitted he would have lost money just by playing there. He retired briefly. A year later, Jason resurfaced in Orlando. The Magic needed a backup point guard. With Dwight Howard in the paint and shooters all around, it felt like Sacramento all over again. Jason fit in immediately, even starting 18 games and playing in all 82, a career first. At 34 years old, he was calm, consistent, and surprisingly efficient. But time is undefeated. Injuries returned. So did ejections, 2 of them in 6 games. In the end, Jason was waived. He returned briefly to the Memphis Grizzlies, but his body was done. In 2011, Jason Williams officially retired, for good this time. Epilogue, a legacy beyond the box score. Jason White Chocolate Williams will never be remembered for just his stats. His career averages, 10.5 points, 5.9 assists, don't tell the story. What he gave fans was something rarer than points or wins. Joy, wonder, imagination. He made the game feel like play again. And while he transformed into a more efficient, smarter player over the years, that one crazy pass per game never disappeared. Because deep down, no matter the system, no matter the coach, Jason Williams was still that kid in the empty gym in West Virginia, inventing the impossible.